order. Hopefully he calls in shortly, but we are 6:32 p.m. and we will call the Tuesday, April 21st, 2020 meeting to order. There is a lot of noise if you are not speaking. If you could mute yourself, I'm not sure where that's coming from. Additions to the agenda. We will add in under old business, we should talk about the building use of the town offices.
Is that all you have?
I think so. Maybe while we have Seth here and you as well, Jean, maybe we should add number 7 and discuss that email I sent out. Sandy, I did get your email saying that we should look into some others as well, but let's just have a brief discussion about that and see if we can get that ball moving.
So that's like fundraiser, library, and
Yeah, that's fine. Department fundraiser, sure.
Rec and library fundraiser.
I like it.
Okay.
Did anybody else have additions to the agenda? Seeing none, I don't have any chair's remarks other than I think we're doing okay here, Vernon. We had a great weekend with the parade, and we see a lot of people coming together on Facebook offering to help each other, looking out for each other, and it is great to see, and hopefully we can continue that. I know that this is tough and we all want to get back to some sense of normalcy, but as long as we keep up the good fight, I think we're headed in that direction. Open public comments on agenda items only. Seeing none. Yes.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. Do you want a motion on the additions?
Oh, sure, we could do that. Yeah.
Okay.
This is why you guys are here.
We all work together. I move that we add under new business, recreation and department and library fundraiser, and under old business, building use of the town offices.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Ms. Harris. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Perfect. I was hoping that Mr. Emery chimed back in here, but Mark, if you're able to get us started, and hopefully we can catch up with David after you go.
Can everybody hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes. Good evening.
Good evening.
Hope everyone is doing well and healthy. Just a few things. Dave actually is the one that wrote the report, and I was hoping he would lead off first. Unfortunately, he's having technical difficulty. So there's a few things from the Vermont Department of Public Health that I'd like to go over. As we all know, on Friday, this past Friday, the governor, state of Vermont, announced a path to restart Vermont. And he indicated and issued some guidelines on some small businesses that the state would allow to reopen and start work and try to get the economy going back in Vermont. A few of those businesses are small crews for outside construction or other outdoor trade jobs, and single worker, low or no contact professional services. The governor also clarifies the guidance for retailers to allow additional operations using delivery and curbside services. And he also outlined the safety requirements for these entities and others already operating to ensure continued social distancing, hygiene, and disinfection. This is all well and good, though I don't think Vermonters should let their guards down. I think we still need to practice the safety measures that have been imposed by the state. That means social distancing, personal hygiene, washing hands, wearing mask when out in public. So we all still have a part in this pandemic. I know last month's meeting, we discussed briefly the cloth face coverings, and there was discussion on how those should be cleaned. I did mention that the CDC's website did have some information on the maintenance and cleaning of the cloth face mask. The state has come out with a guideline for that. It's actually a fact sheet. I'll be forwarding that to Tim, hopefully tomorrow, and he can post that on the town's unofficial webpage for people to read and know the do's and don'ts for a cloth face mask. Another item that the governor discussed is that they want people outside. However, they want you to continue distancing yourself and practicing the safety guidelines. In addition, they have, as you know, ticks are really bad, and those cause problems as well. So the governor has issued, or there's guidelines for ticks. Make sure you take proper precautions for ticks. That's pretty much what I have for right now. I'm not sure if Dave's on yet, or if you have any questions of me.
I think we got David. Oh, it's connected.
I can hear you.
Oh, there you are. Mr. Emery, welcome to the meeting for the second time this evening. Mark Snow just gave his update. And I guess, Mark, do you want to just catch him up quickly and let him go from there?
Sure. Dave, I just went over the Vermont Department of Public Health's today's update. Pretty much the governor's path to restarting Vermont. I did not go over the report that you have prepared. I was hoping that you would get online and be able to read that.
Well, I get it, Snip. Obviously, I am somewhat technically challenged, as one might say. And this doesn't seem to work well for me. I can't wait till we can go back face to face. So let me start with today's report. And as you know, am I muted?
No, you're connecting.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can see you too.
Okay. Yeah, I'm on the phone, but okay. So this is the beginning of week 6. And I don't know how many weeks we're going to continue, but I can tell you that nationally things have changed a lot. Vermont, as you know, has lightened up a little bit. However, just keep in mind that the numbers, for instance, today's numbers are, we're still climbing, however, not rapidly. As of today, there's 816 positive tests for COVID. There have been 13,100 tests and 40 deaths. There were 2 deaths up from yesterday. So all in all, keep in mind that we're not out of this thing. We are probably right at that peak, at the plateau. Let's hope that it won't go higher. But having said that, as you know, the governor is allowing some people to go back to work. So I strongly encourage everyone that is on that list to follow the guidelines that are put out. And I guess I can't stress the importance of maintaining the social distancing, washing your hands, wearing a mask. And this is going to be the norm, I think, for some time to come. If that doesn't happen, if we don't continue to do that, what I'm afraid is that we're going to see the virus return with a vengeance, and it's going to be worse. So with that, I know that town office has the opportunity to figure out how they want to open in other businesses. So I'm suggesting any business that does decide to open, that you write policies now, and you write the stringent policy. And it should include who's coming in, how they're coming in, when they're coming in, and what they're going to wear, if they're going to wear masks, which is certainly the way it should be, and setting some guidelines and times and adhering to it. Also suggesting that cleaning your office, and I don't know what the town has presently for cleaning public spaces in the town office, but you might want to look at that and write the policy to effectively clean it either on a daily basis or wherever you go. I might say though, that's above and beyond the norm. So reading some of the recoveries, that might be part of money that could be recovered. And I would probably, defer to Tom on that as that goes. So with that, again, I've got to, any money that we're spending above and beyond our norm for COVID-19 is going to be at least 75% recoverable.
Yeah, and it needs,
okay. I can't, what? Okay, I'll keep going then.
lost the audio.
He's doing so
Okay.
good.
Yeah.
My phone's saying I'm muted and unmuted, so I don't know whether you're getting this or not.
Yeah, you're on.
So I'm just going to keep talking. So the updates from our local stuff, as you know, school is still in its spring break, and they're still doing the meals. That's still working extremely well. No problems that they've reported, and everything's looking good. Deputy Whittle reports no significant issues other than the norm down here. Fire Chief Capon, as I reported last week, said calls are lower than normal, and their PPE is still okay. They're still okay with all that. I see Seth here, and he will certainly report on his closing and what he's got planned. And probably one I'm most concerned is the green, and Skip is still diligent with keeping that well in hand. And so far, and I'm knocking on wood, there's no cases reported to staff or residents. We're still maintaining a list of volunteers. So if there are people that want to volunteer, you can call Tim. Email him or call him. Tom was successful last week in talking with all of our caretakers in our list of people, and so far that has not changed. So now I would open up. Anybody have any questions or anything that you want to know? I see Brona.
I just
I'll
like,
wait till the select board does it and then I'll take my turn.
I would just like to add to what Dave said earlier in regards to the small businesses reopening and the town hall per se. Um, when that is this decision is made to reopen the town hall and these small businesses, that they do practice the safety guidelines that have been handed down by the state. And also I would encourage continuous cleaning of any public building where there's business transactions being that are occurring. And also a tracking record of who's in and out. That way, if something does happen in the future, there are records and there's policies in writing that indicate what proper steps or what steps are being taken for the course of the business. That's all I have at this point.
Select board, any questions for this team here? Seeing none. Brana, go ahead.
I have two. One is there any suggestions for use of restrooms in public buildings? And the second question has to do with, can we get, we're meeting, the library trustees are meeting on the 13th of May, and I think it's imperative that we adopt the policies. Is there any possibility of us getting copies or suggested language?
Well, Mark, do you want to go with that one? You got any thing?
In regards to the use of public restrooms, if a business is offering public restrooms, then the business should be responsible enough to make sure that the restrooms are cleaned on a regular basis and that proper sanitizing is done, as well as hand sanitizers available on the outside of the restrooms as well. As far as policy, there's none that I'm aware of. However, you can go onto the health.vermont.gov website. There's frequently asked questions and answers section in there. You might be able to find some key points in there, or there may be a section that may have some templates for policies that you're referring to. Other than that,
Guidelines.
I don't have anything personally.
And guidelines?
And guidelines, yes.
Thank you.
Brana, we'll discuss that again towards the end of this meeting as well. So
I'll stick around.
You're welcome to, or we could certainly include you in that on that email that will go out tomorrow, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Any other questions for David or Mark? Jean, you had something?
Get from the Department of Libraries and the state librarian. I can tell the questions they're asking that they're already starting to formulate a plan for how to at least reopen libraries, which would really be similar to the public building. I feel like the governor is going to really lay out how this should be done. And that's where we should take our cues and do at least that, if not more. So I feel like that is going to be coming as the openings are allowed.
And I think you're right. I think, Dr. Levine, and they've done lots of press conferences, and they've all been, very, very clear that the social distancing, washing hands, and masks are probably going to be truly what's going to be enforced.
Yeah.
Even in library or wherever, any of that. And unfortunately, it's going to be a little bit tougher because people are going to be turned away from entering that type of building if they aren't complying.
Yeah.
But the CDC has been very clear with the same thing. So if you narrow it all down, the policies and procedures are probably going to be pretty simple. We just got to figure out how to make them work.
Yeah.
Those four things are going to be the simple ones, and now figuring out how to make it work. You know, for instance, making appointments. You know, I don't know if the library could do that. You know, you might be able to reschedule different times for different people, different age groups. But again, I think I would absolutely agree that we'll see some guidance come out from the state very quickly. Matter of fact, I would assume by the end of the week.
Right.
Rana, was that helpful?
Yes, thank you.
Right.
I know like before we had lockdown that the assistants were washing down books or disinfecting books covers as they were coming in. So I assume that those kinds of practices will, and others. I know that Jean has been thinking about it, and I've also seen questions on the trustees listserv.
David or Mark, is there, when we start talking about square footage of a building like the library or something like that, is there recommendations or guidelines as to how many people are allowed in those specific size places? I don't know if I'm making sense with that.
Yeah, there are. However, square footage hasn't been the topic of the discussion. Unless you're talking fire code, then square footage and the number of exits make the difference. In this application, with the virus, it's the 6 foot thing. So however you look at that, if you took, you know, 30 by 30 building and made 6 foot circles around that is going to be the key. So I think one of the things that we've seen is that they're putting marks on floors, 6 foot marks. So giving people a good indication of where they can and can't be. Doing everything that you can to help the public decide, you know, it's funny, I've heard people saying, well, I'm carrying a 4 foot pipe wrench, and I've been put on. So, you know, it's funny that that 6 foot measurement comes out in a whole bunch of different ways. So I would say that the 6 foot is going to be one of the tougher ones to do. I know in my case it's extremely difficult. You know, I'm a hugger from way back, and so 6 foot is difficult. So it's going to be one of those things that we have to do, and we need to get used to it because it's going to be here for a very long time. Until in today's press conferences, that said these guidelines are going to be pretty much the norm until there's a vaccine, an effective vaccine, and we could be looking at 12, 18 months away.
And just to add to the occupant load, I'm not aware of any restrictions on occupant loads here in Vermont, though I can say that in neighboring states that, such as grocery stores, they're using the rule of thumb of 40% of their normal occupancy for their, and that's based on square footage. So if they were approved for, say, 200 people, as an example, 40% of that is now what they're using as a guideline for during this pandemic at this point. And that's just a reference. But again, that's not in the state of Vermont, that's in neighboring states.
Rana, you had something?
Yeah, I was just thinking about the lobby of the building, and I think that I'm sorry, Jean, but I think we should remove the sale books and even the chairs and tables, so we don't encourage congregation.
I don't disagree with you. I think that rather than going through all of that work downstairs, we do have those velvet ropes for the election. I don't know if that is a possibility to just rope that off for now. I will rely heavily on Mark and David for that one. And also, while we're talking about all of these spaces and we have the rec director here, let's just have the discussion about the rec center. Your thoughts on that, opening that up slowly, or what are we looking at as far as this weather starts to get nicer, allowing the kids out? I just want to get your guys' professional opinion on that.
Are you looking for my opinion specifically, or are you looking for those who maybe have a little bit more experience in this field than myself?
So I think that this is a good time to have this discussion while we have the select board and we have Mark and David here as well as you. I think it makes sense to just kind of throw this around. Certainly not saying that we're going to remove signs and barricades tomorrow, but what does that look like for the future here, gentlemen?
I would ask Seth what he's been hearing and monitoring around the state.
Sure.
What are other recs
Sure.
departments doing?
Yeah, and I have spoke with my colleagues from surrounding towns and how they're working through this. And it sounds like we're all kind of in the same boat. Kind of closed down parks and those things where people could congregate, or there are surfaces that we simply could not clean adequately. Slides and things like that. So, more often enough, I should say. We can clean them adequately, just not often enough. So we're all in the same boat. Those places are all closed down. We're kind of really taking directives from the governor at this point. I think that the decisions will be made clear for us. I don't see individual departments, rec departments, making too many individual decisions. I would venture to guess that the directives will come from the governor and we'll follow those directives. Right now, I don't see us opening the park, in the immediate future. But, I guess time will tell. We'll have some answers hopefully in the next couple of weeks.
I certainly agree with what you said, Seth. The term the governors use regularly is opening the spigot slowly. And my opinion is recreation departments are not in the beginning of that spigot.
I would agree.
Recreation departments in reality are always group things that take place. And the businesses that are being allowed to open are 2 people. So in your application, I think the discussion's important, and I think it's good to start looking at that plan. But I would certainly say that that's not this week. That might be as that faucet turns.
I would agree.
And to add to that is the gathering of 10 or more has not been lifted. So, so that's still in place. Certainly that falls under the rec department. Yeah,
and that was part of the original challenges that we were facing. I had people say, "Are you going to, ask me prior to the closing if we were going to close down the park?" And my initial thoughts were, well, no, we'd love to keep it open. But it became pretty clear pretty quickly that if a couple groups of people, independently decide that they're going to go, use the park, that more than 10 happens very quickly. We had upwards of 15 or more on multiple occasions, and we just said this can't continue to happen. We can't be the ones that are essentially authorizing this by having the park open. So it's kind of forced there, which understandably so.
One question, what about the pavilion? I know you have a lot of events there during the summer months. Are any of those being scheduled, or are you not scheduling any of those until further notice?
Yeah, we schedule those up to a year in advance. So we do have a calendar of events scheduled. At this time, no cancellations have been made, though that certainly would be something that we'll have to visit in the very near future. But we do have events that generally start, I say events, we have rentals that begin late May generally. And I don't have the calendar in front of me, so I couldn't tell you when the first one was this year. But certainly in June. Decisions will have to be made for sure.
So Seth, let me be the first to cancel. Our fundraiser for June has been canceled, and I hadn't called you yet, but I'll tell you now.
Yep, that works, Dave. Thank you. I'll make a note of it.
All right. Any other questions for Mark, David, or for Seth pertaining directly to the rec opening? Seeing none. Let's go ahead and move on to the approval of minutes from our March 17th meeting. Yeah.
The only thing that I noted was that on page 5, there were actually some minutes from the executive session, so I think those have to come out. It's under executive session. Oh, wait a second. I'm sorry, I read that wrong. Forget that.
You're on March 27th, right?
Yeah.
On page 4, it says page 3, but it's the last page. It's at the conclusion of all of this discussion. I have no idea what that means.
On page 4?
Yeah, it says page 3, but then it also says page 4. It's under, it's 6 paragraphs up from the end. It's after bullet number 4.
I don't know where that is.
Do you see where the motion is to pay the employees not considered essential? It's a last made motion before the adjournment motion.
No. I don't see it.
Okay, I just printed these off today.
Oh, okay, there we go. Oh, I see what you're saying now.
Yeah.
Bottom
then-
of page 5.
Oh, it's page 5?
Was
I'm on number
suggested that
way
both
up.
preschool provide some online.
And if we can't figure out what it means, we might as well take that out. Or
Well, it's, yeah, the end of the sentence, because it was suggested that the preschool and after school consider providing online activities. I guess in a similar manner to what the school is doing is what was kind of said.
okay,
That is taking place at the preschool.
Cool.
So I was hoping that Tom would, because I believe he took the notes that evening, I was hoping he would weigh in on this.
I'm just looking for the corrections that need to be made. It was meant, when that was stated, it was based on Mr. Dunkley's discussion that the preschool and the after school should try to offer online activities.
Okay,
And I kept it as short as that.
okay, so I'm not sure I have the same minutes everybody has because I only have literally 4 pages, but there's 4 bullets. Number 4 is the town should be keeping track of all expenses for possible FEMA reimbursement. Then it says at the conclusion of all of this discussion information, colon. That's as clear as mud.
And I'm seeing the same thing.
The 17th to the 27th.
Pardon me?
The 27th,
All right, 27. Yeah, that should be page. Okay. So where are you? I'm sorry, I'm looking at it now.
page 4, bullet 4, the very next line after bullet 4.
At the conclusion of all of this discussion and information, Ms. made a motion, is what I've got.
Before the motion, it says at the conclusion of all of this discussion and information.
She's saying the sentence is not clear, Tom.
Yeah, the word "the" should be the conclusion of all of this discussion and information, colon,
Okay,
there was a motion. So the word "the" should be eliminated.
okay. And then on the motion, seconded is SEC, not SEN.
You're correct.
Motion was seconded, not senated. I mean, Jean is very talented, but I don't know how she did that one.
Any other corrections to that?
No.
All right, can I get a motion?
I move that we accept the minutes as corrected.
And those have been corrected.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded by Mr. Root. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Perfect. I am intentionally dragging my feet. I saw Mr. Dunkley drive by. He should be joining us shortly here. But I think we can move into the bills and warrants.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve payment of the following warrant. 21T accounts payable, $53,801.37. 14S payroll, $9,630.33. And 15S payroll, $7,344.32.
Second,
Moved and seconded by Sandy. I'm sorry, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right. While we still have Mr. Emery here, is there any objection to us moving the adoption of the LEMP plan up to now so that we could get him out of here should he so choose?
great idea.
All right, having no objection, you're up, Chief.
Okay, I think I got this thing working. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah.
There you go.
Welcome.
By the time we're done with this, I'll be good at it.
Yeah. So we all feel.
Right, Rich? Rich will teach me. So the LEMP, that's a document that a few years ago we created, and I'm going to give you some brief history. Prior to the LEMP, you all remember that there was the RERP plan, the Radiological Emergency Response Plan. The LEMP is a statewide plan. However, it came out of the federals, FEMA, and so it's actually tied to FEMA. So with that, the state phased it in. They phased it in with what they called the short form and the long form. We elected to do the short form last year because last year was the first year that it was mandatory it be done. So we did the short form. It was planned to do the long form this year, but given the crisis that we're in, it didn't allow us the proper time to do that. And it is time stamped. Even though the feds and the local government and state government has extended deadlines on everything else, this is one that they did not extend the deadline on, even at the request of every EMD in the state of Vermont. So having said that, the LEMP is tied to the plan that you approved back in October, called the Local Hazard Mitigation Plan. I don't know if you all remember that, but you have a copy of that. So for us to get federal funding, we had to have that plan and the LEMP. So the short form and the version that you have is the short form, and there's no changes on the plan itself. The only changes are names and contact things. Other than that, it doesn't have any changes. And on the sign sheet, and it has to be signed, it has to be approved by the board and signed by the chair. There is a little box that says, mark this block if readopted plan has no changes from the previous year. So that is what you're seeing right now, no changes other than names. And then hopefully next year, you'll see a much thicker document with a lot more stuff in it than you have in the past. So what I need to do today, this has to be into the state by May 1. So once it's signed, someone there needs to send me an electronically signed copy. I will forward it to the local regional planning commission, and they review it. Then they send it on to the state, and the state reviews it and sends it on to Waterbury, and Waterbury sends it to the feds. And because we may be tapping that federal funding for the COVID, we need this document done. Yeah. So I think I made some of the changes. I talked with the chairman earlier, and I think I've made all the name changes. However, those can be made at any time during the year too. So let me entertain what your preference on the LEMP, Local Emergency Management Plan.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I move that we approve and have you sign the LEMP as presented by David.
Second.
I'm sorry, who was that second, Michael?
Michael.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Moved and seconded. All those in favor of signing the LEMP as presented by Chief Emery, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Perfect. So Chief, I will take care of that tomorrow. If you get that over to the town office, and we'll make sure that that gets, or I'll print this off tomorrow and sign that, and we will scan that over to you.
Yep,
Mr. Chairman?
you've got and anything else you want to, if I've got some names wrong or we can change that anytime. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Stay safe, everyone. I'm going to click out. Let me know. 579-9931. Call me and I'll do whatever I can to help you. Thank you. I appreciate everyone working hard on this program. See ya.
Thanks, David.
you.
Appreciate you.
Thanks, David.
Bye.
Tom, you had something?
Well, David's gone now, so I'll have to wait till tomorrow.
Wait a minute. I'm still here. I didn't click out yet.
Yeah, this is the one that Chris sent over to us about 5:55. The one you sent about 3:12 this afternoon, and all it takes is the signature of the chair. Is the format that it's in okay, or does it need to be on formal letterhead?
No, in the format that it's in. Yeah,
Okay.
use that particular document.
It
Okay,
just
then
needs
I'll
to
just
be,
print that off.
it needs to be the most recent one because that's the one that has the name changes, Tom.
Yeah, that's the one you sent me
Correct.
just before the meeting. That's
Yep.
what I'm looking at now.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Perfect.
the top of it only says Local Emergency Management Plan Adoption Form. That's the That's the form. And then it's got my signature on the front page, contacts my signature and the chairs.
You got that one, Tom?
Yes, local emergency adoption form, 22K. Yeah, it's fine. It's the one I received late today, not the one I sent out earlier today.
Correct.
Yeah, we'll just print that off, Chris, and whenever you can come in to sign it, it'll be ready for you.
Okay, I'll be there tomorrow morning.
Okay, excellent.
All right. Mr. Emery, thank you, sir. We appreciate you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Have a good night.
You too.
You too.
Thank you, you too.
All right. In an effort to, oh, Seth is not right there. So we will do the update regarding the emergency meeting and the work session meeting. Tom, did you have the minutes from them? I'm not sure if there's, if you have the minutes readily available, would you like to just give an update on that?
On the emergency meeting, hold on. I sent those out. I don't have them. I'll have to go to my desktop to find them.
Right. Well, while we have Mr. Dio here, let's try and get him out of here as
All
well.
right.
I've got two places that I'd like to, three things I'd like him to weigh in on, but as everybody's aware, the pay for town employees has been spoken about multiple times. I had asked Seth to come up with, just let us know what that budget looked like, because that had been a question I believe, Jeff, you had asked about after school programming and the revenues not coming in and how that was going to affect the bottom line at the end of the year. So I had asked Seth to take a close look at that and lay that out for us so that we could make a more informed decision and make sure that that we were really wrapping our head around this and not backing anybody into a corner. So with that, Seth, if you want to jump in here, that would be great.
Yeah, I will. So I guess I'll kind of give a general synopsis of what our projected numbers will look like for the department through this fiscal year. There's two scenarios we really need to look at, but it's important for people to first understand the bottom line number that is the goal of our department. Basically, you're looking at our actual budget of $350,429. We project revenue of about $190,000 prior to the pandemic challenges we're facing.
That's not going to work. Go ahead, sorry.
All right, which means our total for taxpayers to raise, as approved, the previous town meeting, not this previous one, but the one prior, was that we would cost taxpayers $160,429. So that's really the magic number that we need to hit. And there's two scenarios that we have to look at here. One, and forgive me, I'm looking at a sheet here, so if I'm not, visually looking at the screen, I'm just making sure I'm getting my numbers correct. We have one scenario well, first of all these numbers that I'm going to tell you factor in all department staff that are currently receiving those paychecks at their current levels through the end of the fiscal year. That includes preschool and one after-school program staff member. We do have two after-school program staff members. However, one was scheduled to be out with medical leave, and she has not received a paycheck since that scheduled out date. We felt that was the appropriate way to approach that. So that leaves us with one after-school program staff member that has been receiving a paycheck, and we would like to see that continue. So these numbers that I'm about to read to you.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Seth. Can I ask, you said the end of the fiscal year. Would that after-school personnel, would that be until the end of what would have been our normal school year?
Yes, sorry. I wasn't clear with that. Yes, it would be through the end of our normal school year. There would be no additional paychecks. It would be the normal end of the school year. Correct. Right.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. So the first scenario that we would be looking at would And again, it's hard to throw a lot of numbers at you here, and I apologize for doing that, but I'm going to do the best I can to articulate it. We still start out with that $350,429. We do have a couple of different accounts that we will be under. We're going to come in under in seasonal staff and programs as well, at a tune of a total of about $16,000 under there. And we also have some fundraising dollars available to us to offset some preschool salaries. So with those numbers factored in, our projected year-end spending drops from 350 to 320. That also, with the reduction of programs and some loss of revenue, the projected revenue would dip from 190 to 160. 320, 429 minus the projected 160 revenue gives us the total to raise of 160, 429, which is exactly, that's the number that we need to hit. So we can certainly hit that. That scenario is played out in that the pool opens on time, June 19th, with full programs. Probably not a likely scenario. So here's scenario 2, which factors in the fact that the pool does not open as scheduled this fiscal year. There are no programs until the following fiscal year. That could, in theory, be July 1. It could be August. I don't know. But just it doesn't factor those revenues of those programs this fiscal year. Looking at our budget, we would have about let's see here, $24,000 in savings between seasonal staff under budget. We would have about still that $9,000 in programs we would still save. We do have some fundraising dollars to offset preschool salaries, which means our projected year-end spending in this scenario, without the pool opening on time, projected year-end spending of $310,429. We would have a little less revenue in that case without those early programs in the pool, dropping our revenue to $150, which still puts us at our bottom line of $160,429, which is exactly where we need to be. So budget-wise, while we have had loss of programs, and that is certainly unfortunate, we are able to hit our bottom line to the taxpayer. And to sit here today, that's something that we're as comfortable as we can be, I suppose, in this situation. We are using this time to try to get ahead with some things and planning for the summer as if it's going to happen. There's some, we have our paint for the pool. The pool has been cleaned out. We're not going to paint it or start filling it or anything along those lines until we have some guidance from the governor. We do need about 3 weeks to make that happen. If they say, hey, you can open your pool and there's going to be restrictions and this is how, it's going to have to operate. We do need about 3 weeks to go from where we're at now to the pool being operational. Pretty early to really say whether any of that's going to happen. So, I mean, I guess that's a lot of numbers to throw at a computer screen without having any visuals to look at here. But the bottom line is we are able to hit our total to raise to the taxpayers, maintaining payroll, and still operating the best that we can. The principal is running a similar programs that the school is. They have, some Facebook groups. They're putting together packets that they're getting to students. They're communicating with the students to the best of their ability. While I would personally say teaching is extremely challenging, in the classroom, the current situation that they're all working through is every bit as challenging, if not more. And so they deserve a lot of credit for what they're doing.
Thank you.
So the reason that I had asked Seth to chime in here this evening is not because we're making any decisions tonight, but because this was scheduled to be a large part of our discussion at the May 5th meeting.
Right.
So I wanted to make sure that we had these numbers. Seth, if you could send those out so that now it'll make more sense for them to see that, and we can have that for discussion on the 5th. Having said that, Jeff, I know that you had raised the question at one of the previous meetings about the preschool teachers doing similar to what grade school and middle school teachers were, and Seth has confirmed that that is happening. So I guess anybody have any questions for Mr. Deal?
First question, Seth.
Sure.
What was the projected income or revenue for the after-school program?
Right now, it'll be a little bit over 11,000, I believe. That revenue would cover salaries through May 8th. So we would be looking at a month basically of uncovered salaries for one person. However, the total department budget still comes in equal to what we had need to raise.
So that means other expenses are less than what was originally budgeted?
Sure, yes. Which some of that is reflected in the upcoming budget that starts, July 1. Like the fact that we have a fair amount of savings for our seasonal staff this year, I say savings, coming in under budget. We did reduce seasonal staff salaries starting July 1 as we've been able to figure out how to do things, similar services, but still reduce staffing from what we had previously done.
So in the past, I know you've looked pretty hard at individual programs, I believe with the idea of trying to make as many self-supporting as possible.
Yep.
So after May 8th, the after-school program is not self-supporting.
In this particular environment, yes,
Okay.
that is the case this year.
That's what I wanted to know.
Okay.
As far as the opening up the pool and the rec, who's going to make that determination? You mentioned the governor.
Sure.
Is it the rec board, or like I said, who's actually on the ground going to make a determination what to open?
Yeah, I don't believe those decisions will be made here locally. I believe those decisions will be in the form of directives from the from the state, whether or not it's number of people on a given site, whether or not it's 6-foot rules. I believe there will be some guidance that will be coming down. I know that the Vermont Recs and Parks Association has drafted some letters and looking for some protocols from the governor's office to say, hey, what can we do and how can we do it? So I believe those directives will be coming.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
And Jeff, we did discuss that briefly while we had Mark and David here earlier to just to get their kind of recommendations or input on that. And their feeling was the same, is that was going to very much so come from Montpelier at some point. At least this is the quarter turn that the governor keeps referring to, and how that's going to reflect in the reopening of our parks. Any other questions for Seth in regards to that? Okay, so if nobody on the board objects, while we have Seth here, this is how organized I am. I'm just all over the place, but I had sent out an email earlier about I believe it's called the Gray Shirt project. And I just reached out to him to see, I saw that he was working with a local business here in town. It seems like a fairly straightforward, it doesn't cost us any money, but there's potential to make money to offset some of these costs, to offset some of the fundraising dollars that Seth might have to dip into, as well as the library. So Brana, this was where I had said, or mentioned you might want to stick around for this. I just think that this is worth looking into. The shirts sell for, I think they're $19. Each department would get $10 from that specific sale. $9 stays with the company to cover their costs and their salaries. So ultimately, it's a small business trying to help other small businesses or entities like this and keep everybody's head above water and make this hurt a little bit less. My personal opinion would be that our town recently has very much shown that we are in this together. They've worked together. They have looked out for each other. So I feel that this is a potential to put a few extra dollars into each of those funds to offset a little bit of this. So questions or comments from the board on that?
Oh, sorry, I'm not the board. Go ahead.
Sandy, I know you had said that there might be some other places out there. Just curious what your thoughts are there.
Well, I know that Seth uses different silkscreen companies, which might be offering the same. I think he's still using them, but there are 2 silkscreen companies in a short radius of us here that might offer something similar. I just feel that we should open it up to see if somebody else does it. I'm not against it. I think it's an awesome idea. I just don't want someone coming back and saying, well, I didn't even have a chance to tell you what I could do.
That's fair. Seth,
But I'll
you
go
usually
on.
deal with Melissa, right?
Yeah, we use Pure Green Teas. Melissa Galati from Dummerston. She does a great job for anything we need.
Okay. So I don't know, Braun, I apologize. I should have sent that email to you earlier as well. I can send it over to you later, but between Gene and Seth, I think it's something worth looking into, reaching out to Melissa or Sandy, if there's another one closer that you're aware of. I agree that we should continue to support those local businesses, but I would absolutely love to see both of your departments be able to bring some money in. And at the same time, I think it would give the Vernon residents a chance to show their support and a little bit of pride in their town. And I think that they are more than willing to do that right now. So we should utilize that.
What would the t-shirts say?
So ultimately, you just have to give them a, I don't remember what the format was, but whatever your logo is for, so like the thing that's usually on your fundraising pamphlet, I believe that Vernon Free Library thing. For Seth,
Yeah.
I'm not sure what you guys have for a recreation logo, and it might just straight up say Vernon Rec on it. I don't think any of that's going to matter. I think that it's just going to be a sense of them pitching in and helping, and I mean, hey, we all get a shirt out of the deal. So that was my only thought with that, was that if every little bit helps here when we're starting to talk about Seth potentially dipping into fundraising money because he feels so strongly about making sure his staff is paid, and I agree with him on that, that this is a way to kind of help out with that. So
That's good.
I'm very well. I did briefly look at it, and I would be one of those things I'd love to bounce off my board as well before I sat here at a meeting and said, yeah, let's do it. I'd like to bounce it off them.
I would love for you to do that too.
I can do that.
I almost feel like we maybe don't need to aim it at either department, but maybe just some kind of Vernon pride kind of thing. If we sell them in the library, that's our take. If they're sold through the rec department, that's their take. But I don't know. I mean, that's just a thought too. Just
It's a good
something that addresses what we're surviving here,
I think that we should look into a little bit more and put it on the May 5th agenda and see if we can make something happen with that.
Sure.
At this point, I don't think any fundraiser that costs us $0 is a bad fundraiser.
Right. Right.
So, all right,
Okay.
Perfect. Seth, unless the board has any further questions for you, I believe that we are set with you, sir.
All right. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
Yes,
Seth.
All right. So town policies update and review process. I am perfectly fine if we table that. If there's no objection with that.
No.
Perfect. Is that gonna,
You
Brana,
wanna
go
go-
ahead.
We, at this point, I'll just tell you what the library does. We have general operating procedures for the library specific, and our personnel policies, we follow the town and our, except for paid holidays. And we, at this time of year, should be reviewing, we should have started in April, my bad. So that will be on our agenda for May 13th.
And Brana, you have all of the pertinent information that you need to log into Zoom and host a meeting and all of that stuff. If
Yes.
not, we'll get that to you. Okay, perfect.
I have my own subscription
Oh,
for the library and some other stuff
okay.
in my life.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Update on bid regarding John Deere. So we have 2 bids. Neither of them came in time. So with that in mind, I guess I'm curious what the board wants to do about that. My opinion is we have a lawnmower and attachments that are sitting there, and I truthfully don't care when those bids came in. I think that we need to just get rid of it. But that is my opinion. Jeff?
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, the time frame I don't think should matter.
Okay. Michael?
Better late than never.
Gene?
I agree.
Sandy?
Move them out.
With that being said, Tom is the holder of the bids, and I'm not sure how we proceed from here.
So if I could, Mr. Chairman, I'll just let you know when they came in and what they were for. We received the bid on the 16th of April from Mr. Dale for $551. That was from Peter Dale. And on the 20th, just to make sure we understand the dates, we received a bid from Mr. Pond on the 20th for $550. So, but the dates are important here.
Mr. Chairman, I move we award the bid to Peter Dio for $551. That dollar could help the rec.
Second.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Mr. Dunkley. All those in favor of accepting Mr. Dio's bid of $551, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Perfect. Congratulations, Pete. It is all yours now.
Now get to work.
That's right. And I guess this has absolutely nothing to do, not on the agenda, but it has to do with the North School. The shed that was outside of the town office blew away in that windstorm that we had last week. There was absolutely nothing of any value in that. It is still out there. It is held down so that it doesn't blow away again. And I would like to say thank you to David Emery, Seth, and Ian Dio for cleaning that up. The things were strewn all over the place. And when I got there from work, those guys were so unbelievably soaked in the pouring rain, and it was miserable and cold, and I was out there for 5 minutes. So thank you for getting that cleaned up. Everything that was in that is in the North School at this point. I think we will put that on our next agenda as far as what we want to do with that. It's a lot of old police department stuff that, as far as I'm concerned, probably needs to find a dumpster. But I think I will go in there and lay it all out and take pictures, and then we can discuss that at the next meeting if everybody's okay with that.
Okay.
Sure.
Perfect. Zoom to town accounts update. So that's been moved over. That is under Cindy's name now. It is paid for by the town card. I believe, Tom, you've been reimbursed or will be reimbursed.
Yeah, I'll be made whole. It's all good.
So thank you for letting us utilize your card in the beginning of this nightmare until we could get that switched over. So ultimately now any committee has the option of using that account to host their meetings. And this was in an effort to continue to move the town forward and keep business operational. So I don't think that really needs much more discussion unless anybody has anything. Seeing none. Town picnic discussion. I was asked this week if we were in a place to make a decision about the town picnic. And the reason for the question was because if we are not in a position for that, we need to cancel the fireworks by, I believe it was the end of the first week in May, or else we get billed 10% and we continue to get billed until we either cancel it or allow them to come and do it. So I will just start by saying that my opinion is that yes, this was all voted on last year. It was made pretty clear at this year's town meeting that this isn't an overly supported thing. And my feeling is that we should potentially be looking for some type of a townwide party, whatever we want to call that, in maybe September to celebrate making it through all of this stuff. So I understand that that is in a different fiscal year, and I'm not sure how that works. That was just my thought. But I don't think that we are in any position to say that, yes, we could have a town picnic at the end of June. Having said that, Sandy, your thoughts?
I think for them to require us to make that decision now, my decision would be forget it. This is
Yep.
not something we planned on. And
Mhm.
it's not something, we can't tell when this is going to be over.
Yeah, I agree with both of you.
Jean?
I also agree. I don't think that crowds like that are going to be allowed that soon. And I think the money's in a fund, so I don't think it goes anywhere.
It just hangs out.
So that would have been my only other question to that would be if we did something after July 1, would those funds be available to offset that, or are they directly earmarked for fireworks only?
Have to ask Cindy.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fair. Michael, any comments?
No, sir.
All right. So having said that, if there is no, and please let me know if we need to vote on this, but I'm comfortable reaching out to the organizer of the town picnic and saying at this time, we will not be hosting a town picnic in this fiscal year.
I think I would make a motion that due to the coronavirus situation, that we do not host a fireworks and town picnic this year.
Second.
I'm sorry, could we put a friendly amendment in there that says this fiscal year? Are you okay with that, Sandy?
That's perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Jean, are you all set to continue with that second? Okay.
Second.
Moved and seconded to not have a town picnic and fireworks display in this fiscal year. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. All right. On to old business, town administrator recruitment discussion. So
Yep.
we had our workshop meeting last Wednesday to discuss that. There's been a few changes laid out to the job description. I believe everybody saw that email today. There were some highlighted things, some things taken out, some things that were changed around. So I think that we should discuss when we want to meet again about that. Did we set up a meeting last time? I thought we did. No?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No.
So is everybody okay if we look at next Wednesday to do another workshop? And hopefully that would be the last one that would, I think that we would be able to have everything discussed and be at a point where we could involve whatever recruitment we might be looking for.
Fine. Here.
Yeah, next Wednesday's good.
Yep. Mr. Chairman,
Sure.
Yeah,
you will not need me at that meeting as I will not be available that night.
that's fine.
Okay.
So that's going to be April 29th at 6 or 6:30. What's best for everybody?
6:30 is better.
6:30, please, so I can get home from work.
Okay. So Wednesday, April 29th at 6:30, we will host another workshop meeting for a town administrator recruitment. Just putting that in my calendar, sorry.
Me too. So we'll forget.
All right. Stair replacement bid. We've gotten some comments on it. I personally think that it is not an overly welcoming sight when we drive into town and the first thing you see is caution tape on the stairs to the town office building. And I know that there's been some discussion about this before. Apparently it was supposed to have been taken care of. It wasn't, it was. I have no idea. Either way, those stairs are still in terrible shape. I think that we need to do something about that before it looks any worse or before somebody gets hurt. The only problem I see with it, and I'm hoping that with the governor's orders that some of those things start to open up again, is that nobody can get concrete right now. is what I heard the other day. What truth there is to that, I'm not 100% sure.
I'd seen
But I was.
concrete trucks.
What's that?
I seen 6 concrete trucks on Route 30 the other day.
I don't know if it depends on what the project is or where it's from. I did hear from a employee at one of our local businesses that if a truck crosses from New Hampshire with it on it, that there is a fine waiting for them for doing that. So I don't know what the ins and outs are of that. I don't know if there's any truth to that. I just wanted to pass it along that this might be something that we get bids on, and then the work is actually pushed out a little bit. Having said that, I would like to open it up to a discussion. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, well, I agree that it does look pretty unsightly when you drive by, seeing the caution tape. You know, and again, I don't think they're dangerous if you get the caution tape up, but anyways, yeah, I think whatever we can get done sooner is the best.
Gene?
Well, I have rallied to have those stairs replaced for a long time because they're not consistent measurement. And then, you know, the crumbling, which I'm not sure patching that is going to be the answer. I think it'll, you know, resurface again, you know, what's happening to them. So, and I'm not sure that a staircase needs to be that wide, you know. It could perhaps be a little bit narrow, whatever the state codes are, and, you know, fill in on the sides and go with that.
Sandy?
I think you find that the instability of that area there goes right up to the foyer. You'll notice the crack goes across the steps. I think if we do it, we really should do it right before we have, if we had done it when it came up back in the early 90s, would have cost a lot less money.
So is there, where is the, and Michael, I'm intentionally holding out on you because of your experience with that, but I'm curious where the funds for that are. Was there something set aside at one point? Where, because I thought we had said that that had been discussed previously and it was supposedly supposed to be taken care of and wasn't. So where were we spending that out of?
I don't know if that's just like building maintenance and repair.
I didn't see it in the capital plan.
No,
It would definitely be a capital plan.
no, it's not in there. I think that like under select board budget, the buildings and grounds, well, it'd been right now, this fiscal year, we've got $250,000 was budgeted. I can't tell you what was spent. I don't have that, but next fiscal year, there's only $8,000, but we also made that other fund for kind of emergency things, so. Yeah, not knowing what that's gonna cost, I don't know how we're gonna do that.
All right. So I know that, Tom, I had asked you to reach out to some people. I'm not sure if that's happened yet or not.
Yeah. Do you want me
Go
to
ahead.
answer that, or?
Yep.
I've reached out to 3 different firms. I've reached out to Reno Brothers. I've reached out to Zaluzny. Spoke with the secretary there, and I know, Chris, you've spoken to people down at Zaluzny as well. And to King, Andrew King, who does concrete work. He's out of Putney, but his son lives on Franklin Road. He and his wife live on Franklin Road at the Damien Flooring former house. So all 3 of those folks are going to be providing bids. And I've also ask them to in a separate quote, not only the stairs, but to look at the landing, if you call it, to the patio or to the foyer, where that is also, the metal is all, stairway there is all crumbling as well, and that's falling apart, as Sandra so aptly mentioned. And so I wanted to get a price on that repair or replacement in that area, not the whole foyer, but certainly going up to that top landing where it's fallen apart as well.
I think whatever bids we get needs to be to do that job the right way and not piecemeal this back together and just put into a Band-Aid on it for a year. And having
Right.
said that, I would like to open that up to Michael, where this is a large part of his experience in, with his military career. So Michael, your thoughts on the stairs at the town office?
I think it's gonna be cheaper all the way around, replace them completely. Band-Aids are very expensive. In my experience, we only used them for dignitaries coming to visit, but they're very pricey.
So it sounds like everybody is in favor of having some bids on this, doing it the right way, and hopefully doing this once and for all. And it sounds like, Sandy, did you say the 90s? This has been,
Yes, and I don't know if Christine or Steve Zaluzny have any of Walter's old stuff or if it's in the files, but I believe they had engineering look at that. I know they talked about it back then, doing the whole thing. So it might be good to research what we've done in the past for what would be required. Because when you do the RFP, we're going to have some information.
Tom, is that something that you can try and dig into and find that stuff?
Yes, I will try to hunt it down both through the minutes and through the files as well. I don't see anything jumping out at me in the file cabinet behind me, but that doesn't mean that it's not somewhere else in the building.
Tom, the select board minutes of that time were put into PDF files on a disk. And I think if you research it, you might be able to pull them up that way. I don't know.
Okay. I shall look at it that way.
All right.
That was from the 90s.
Yes.
Sandy, do we need a motion to move forward on any of that, or where are you at? What are your thoughts?
I think we ought to see what he can find and then bring it at the next meeting.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. I think all that we have left here is a quick discussion on the building use. We all received the email. Tim is allowing certain people in. He admittedly felt like he maybe stepped on toes without more communication with the other people that share that office space. So then he sent out kind of an amendment to that and some thoughts on how we could compromise and everybody could utilize that space. I did speak with David Emery today, who also touched on this during our meeting this evening. He said that it would be in everybody's best interest to have a written policy. So unless the board objects, Tom, I would like to ask if you could possibly organize that between the lister's office, the treasurer's office, the clerk's office, and Brana and Jean, if you guys want any weigh in on that. I think that you guys might be coming up with your own policies and procedures to move forward, but you might be able to take some ideas from what we get there. Ultimately, I think that they're all elected officials and they can do what they want in there. But I think that I think they need to work together the best that they can to come up with a plan that suits everybody's needs as far as continuing to operate the town without potentially putting any of our employees at unneeded risk. So a written policy from each of those offices and a tracking system David had mentioned. So I do think that we should have a sign in, sign out log there so that we do know who is coming in. Should something happen, we have a place to check with that. And I am curious everybody's thoughts as far as, and if it's a possibility, but increasing some of our cleaning companies' time, and if that would be available under the COVID, the federal funds that would be there, so that we could potentially recoup some of that cost, but ensuring that, because I think, Gene, how often do they come into that building to clean?
One night a week. The governor's directive had said that areas where the public is coming in needs to be cleaned 3 times a day, the beginning, the middle, and the end of the day. Any day that the public has come in.
So I guess, Gene, you've got the floor. What are your thoughts on this as far as moving forward and how we should be looking at this building?
You know, I think it's doable. It would be great if those people were in the minimal amount of areas. Just walking through the lobby, I think the lobby is okay unless they start coughing or something out there, and then they need to go back out the door. But handles, you know, door handles need to be done. Really, in Tim's office, I feel like the tables that they've been at should be cleaned. Hopefully they don't use the restrooms, because those, any handles there need to be cleaned. That's really what you know, that's what you need to do right now with this. You've got people.
Go ahead, Gene.
I was gonna say, you've got people coming in that you don't know where else they've been. And now it's obvious that they're becoming more mobile and they're out there more. So we need to protect on our end.
Michael?
Do they have cleaning supplies that they can clean in between the cleaners? Because I know my office is open to the public, and I clean multiple times a day because my traffic volume is way higher than you guys are going to see. But I hit all the hot spots. Anything people touch, I'm doing them every 4 or 5 customers. So I spend a lot of my day doing that.
Yeah. So I do know that the other day when I was in there, some researcher had come in, and Tim did go over and he cleaned that counter afterwards. He was very on top of that person, making sure that they were wearing a mask and that they sanitized their hands upon entry of the office. So not to say that that is happening for everyone. I don't know. I'm not there for everyone, but I do think that there is an honest effort being made to do this. Tim's whole purpose for this was that if we had residents that wanted to refinance with the new interest rates, or because out of necessity, that the only way that that could happen is by having those offices open so that researchers could come in. I believe he had discussed only having one in there at a time, making sure that they were doing certain things. Again, he did clean after they left. And as far as your question, Michael, there is some cleaning supplies in there. I do think that if we needed to purchase more, that at this point, COVID would probably cover that for sure. I know that it is in my school district. All of my increases on paper supplies, which were unexpected, is most likely going to fall under there. So I would venture to guess that if we needed more of the disinfectant type stuff, that would be covered. Jeff, your thoughts?
I guess I probably expressed most of them in an email to all of you the other day. I just had one idea as far as the bathrooms. I'm just going to throw it out there that perhaps the ladies' room can be restricted just to town employees. The men's room can be relabeled as a public use bathroom. So, but other than that, I don't have any fresh new thoughts about this.
Sandy?
I know that at the Vernon Green and stuff, they have this really strong disinfectant stuff that when a person comes through the door, course, they have to have their temperature taken and all this other stuff, but they wipe down the door after every single person.
Mm-hmm.
And that nursing home is so far, and the assisted living is clean. I mean, they don't have the COVID,
Right.
which is something to be very proud of them.
Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome.
Carol, since we have you here, could I get your thoughts on this? You share that office.
I see no one.
Okay.
Nobody comes back. I have once in a while, I think Sandy popped her head in one day, and that is the last time I've had anybody in there.
Okay. Right. So with this kind of quarter turn, as the governor calls it, you're feeling that you're okay to be in that building to continue to do your work?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Tom, any thoughts from you on that? You shared as well?
Yeah, a couple of quick things, if I could, Mr. Chairman. One, Mr. Dunkley brings up a good idea. I think it has to be reversed,
thanks.
however, with the bathrooms because of the handicapped accessibility issue. That's one. Tim's, the town clerk's protocols for anybody coming in, you kind of highlighted, Chris, but they've got to come in with gloves and a mask. If they don't have gloves, they got to wash their hands before they enter in. We still have some of that material that we purchased from the distillery up in Brattleboro. That will disinfect just about anything. It's pretty strong.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty strong stuff. And Tim's real good about that. I know the treasurer has some concerns due to, I can't get into it. There's some HIPAA stuff that we got to discuss that we have to be concerned with. And we did, Tim did spend some of his money out of his budget to put a pretty nice stainless steel, I guess, for lack of a better term, diamond type box out in the front for people to drop things off. The Reno brothers made that, and that's a really good piece for people to drop off tax bills or letters or things like that. No checks, no cash. The custodian I did speak with last week when we were here for our work session. He happened to be in the building. You know, they can come in more, but they are getting booked up more and more. So their time is limited. If we want them in here more often, we need to let them know that quickly. If the budget allows for that, then I would think we'd want them to come in. If we're gonna open the offices up for attorneys to do title searches and those types of things, I'm not talking about library at this point. I don't know where that's the trustees are gonna go with that. I don't think we're ready to open that yet myself.
No.
But you know, if those are the days, if he's going to open it Wednesday and Thursday afternoons type of thing, then we need to have the MFT come in here and perhaps do a really good scouring of his office as well as the lobby. We can do the door handles after everybody comes in and out. We're not talking about hundreds of people coming in. It's going to be very limited. It's by appointment. We can manage that, and we can clean off those things that need to be done with each patron coming in and out. But I do think you may want to have MFT in here if they're available those nights for just this extra cleaning of the bathrooms in the lobby in Tim's office.
Ron, I do see your hand. I'm just curious the board's thoughts on reaching out to MFT about increasing their hours. My thought would be that if the treasurer is going to be in the office Monday and Tuesday, that maybe they come Tuesday night, and then if Tim's there Wednesday, Thursday, maybe they come back on Friday or something. Yeah. And that's covering after each separate office is kind of open, if that's making any sense. Curious what the board's thought on that would be. Sandy?
I think we need to have them clean whatever's the best possible.
Jean?
It certainly doesn't replace the constant disinfecting that needs to be done.
Not at all.
Otherwise, in terms of doing the floors or whatever, other than cleaning the bathrooms more often, there isn't a lot of traffic to warrant more mess on the floors, but the bathrooms would be important.
Jeff?
Yeah, I agree.
Michael?
I think as long as people are handling the hot spots when people come in and the cleaning schedule doesn't need to change. My works hasn't, other than doing hot spots.
Mm-hmm. All right.
So it sounds like we're kind of up in the air on that one between. Gene, you don't sound sold on that either, the necessity of it. I mean, I think if we went to more hours with them, we would have to be sure that we were asking them to focus on bathroom handles, stalls, and making sure that there was more of a disinfectant type of work happening over
Right.
multiple vacuuming of the same rugs or something.
Exactly. Yes. I
So
agree with that.
Could we task Tom to reach out to them and see what their availability is and what they could offer and what that looks like? And then he could send that to us so that we could see that. Is everybody in favor of that?
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Sounds good.
Bronna, you've had your hand up. Go ahead.
Several suggestions based on experiences in Brattleboro. I know Brown and Roberts does not allow any customers to use their restroom, and the co-op has people outside. These are staffers just giving you, we saw you yesterday.
Yeah.
That you get in line. I was first yesterday. I got there early. But I was thinking, if we're going to allow people in, public in, we definitely need to put up those ropes that you suggested earlier, Chris, to keep them away from things like the books and the chairs, and just literally have traffic, in where we want them to go. The library is very complicated right now. And also I think it might be people, unless the researchers, the legal researchers are in there for a long period of time, restrict the use of the bathrooms to just staff.
Yeah.
I know that's really hard, but
I
I'm fine with that. I think that is really gonna, well, I guess that's probably one of the only decisions that we as a board could make. The rest of it comes down to each department. So I think that we could certainly ask that they do that. The restrooms are reserved for staff only. My only concern is that in a time where we are highly encouraging people to wash their hands after every move that they make, we're taking that away from them by
Good
telling
point.
them that they can't use that.
good point.
So I'm not sure that that's the answer. I do like the idea of from Jeff. See, there you go, Jeff. You got 3 supporters tonight.
Wow.
That we
On a
close
roll.
one. That we close one for just our staff, and when we start talking about the library, I believe you guys have 2 bathrooms and just one.
Oh,
Oh.
one.
Okay, all right.
Unisex.
So maybe at that point,
Gender.
the town clerk's restroom would become your staff restroom that we could designate until this is over. As far as roping things off, Bronna, yes, we can absolutely do that. However, I don't believe that we're allowing public in just yet. I believe that this is strictly all about title researchers and things like that. So it is going to be very limited. We are going to know who they are. But yes, for any type of comfort reasons, if you would like, I will go down tomorrow and put those up across that lobby so that that's off limits.
Well,
And
I
I'm
mean,
fine with
also
that.
so tempting, even if you're, it's like, oh, I'm on
That's
my,
fine. I've
Yeah.
got to go down there to sign that. I'm more than happy to bring those upstairs just to keep everybody feeling comfortable. So we can certainly take care of that. So Tom, I would ask that you work with the treasurer, the lister, and the town clerk to come up with a policy that works for allowing people slowly into that. We understand that there is going to be some complications out of the treasurer's office. Again, trying to not get into any details there. And we'll do everything that we can to make everybody comfortable in that building to the best of our ability. Ultimately, it's going to come down to Cindy and Tim and what they see fit for that building, as well as their assistants. So
aren't the taxes due the 7th?
they are. So
They
Tim
could
had
be-
said that he would not be scheduling any researchers for that day to make sure that the treasurer's office could operate at full capacity, as well as I believe he was trying to not work on Mondays and Tuesdays because of payroll, to make sure that the treasurer could be in there undisturbed and not having to worry about this. Any
Maybe
other discussion on this? Go ahead.
Maybe just postpone tax day for a month or so.
You could.
Well, you know, just south of here, they did do that, but they didn't do it across the border up here.
Well, they did it for income tax. Why couldn't we do it?
Are we entertaining that discussion
No.
at this point? No?
I'm just joking. Anything I can do so I don't have to pay taxes
Yeah.
Jeffrey.
on time.
For you pay later.
All right. Any other discussion on building use? Seeing none. Public participation. Bronny, you got anything for us? I think you've been involved in all of it. You got anything else?
No, I just need to call Jean, or we need to have a conference call
Okay.
separate for this stuff. But thank you. This has been very, very helpful.
I would think that you would be able to steal the language right from whatever they work with. I would imagine that, Tom, we could keep that in mind as we're coming up with things, making sure that we're including that lobby to protect anybody that might be in and out of there. And then you guys could look at that and see what works for you and what changes you might need to make there. I do think that utilizing the one designated bathroom that would be available in the clerk's office would solve your problem, so that you could still have the public restroom, should you choose to go that way. Or we would have to get some type of a hand sanitizer, those wall mounted ones or whatever. We would have to have something in there for your guests when we get to that point. However, I think that we're still probably a couple of weeks out from having to really worry about that. So
Yes.
correspondence, town admin report. What do you got, Tom?
Been working with a couple. We had a call today. You should not be aware of this, from a senior from the housing development down on Huckle Hill, relative to the town reimbursing people for ambulance runs. And that's not, and speaking with the treasurer, that's not what we do, but upon request, I guess there is a policy to cover the cost of the Rescue Inc. membership. And I let her know that. And she was very clear that she was going to be sure that everyone in the complex knew that. So I think you might see a run on that from some of our seniors over the next few weeks, just so you're aware of it. There is a fund. I also put her in touch with Mary Lynn Sherlin if she was having difficulty paying that copay, that there's the senior, there's a fund to help, and Mary Lynn was involved with that. So I put her in touch with her as well. As it relates to the FEMA reimbursement process, I've been on one webinar conference call. There's another one on Thursday that I'm going to participate in. I just want to put a little caution out to the board. that, you know, we think all of this will be reimbursed at 75% if we meet the threshold, but there is a threshold we have to meet. And you know, there's a minimum cost that we have to meet before we can submit. And I think with the Tyvek uniforms, if you will, that the EMD has ordered, I think we should be okay with that. But I don't want people to get a false sense of hope that everything we spend is going to be reimbursable or accepted for reimbursement. We're going to submit everything we have, all of the payrolls, all of the other things that we can that are overtime. And those are extra costs that the town has incurred since the declaration of the emergency by the governor and through this COVID piece. But I just want the board to understand we can submit all of the invoices. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're all going to be accepted. And I just want people aware of that. We submit, you know, I've submitted before hundreds, you know, thousands of dollars, and thousands of dollars less X has come back as reimbursement at the 75%. I just want people not to be expecting 100% of what we submit to get 75% of that back. We probably won't. But just that way, no one's going to be surprised.
That all you got?
Yeah, I think that's really all we got. Tim and I have been working. You asked me a little earlier about the minutes from the emergency meeting. Do you want a recap on that meeting? I had sent the minutes out, but do you want, I've got them up if you want a recap of what the board did so the public's aware.
Sure.
The board met on Easter Sunday and met with Dave Emery and the board and myself. Since the governor declared a state of emergency, it was important that the town declare a state of emergency as well. So it would be eligible for up to 75% FEMA reimbursement. And Sandra made a motion to adopt the local jurisdiction for emergency declaration to be dated 4/12/2020 at Vernon, with the correction that the two corrections that the town administrator be interim town administrator. That's correct. And that the date was put in correctly. That was part of it. The other piece of the meeting, support of the select board to support the rec director and rec committee on closing the parks. And a motion was made there by select board member Harris to support the actions of the Vernon Rec Committee to close the recreation facilities, including the recreation center playground in the town, while excluding the town forest and hiking trails. The motion was seconded by select board member Carr and unanimously agreed to by the board. And the board adjourned a little bit before 12 o'clock.
Perfect. Next select board meeting will be May the 5th at 6:30. We do have a work session that will be scheduled for, what is that? Is that the 29th? I believe so, next Wednesday at 6:30. That will be more town administrator discussion. And with that, I would entertain a motion to get out of here.
So moved.
Second.
Oh, Jeff beat you, Gene. All right, moved in second, and all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Chris, I'll have that document with Tim for you to sign in the morning.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Everyone.